Yeah, hey, good afternoon. Appreciate everyone being here. First and foremost, as I start, I have got to thank our fan base. I mean, they brought great energy and electricity to the environment on Saturday night. I cannot thank them enough for their passionate support. I mean, everyone knows we got one of those passionate fan bases in all of college athletics, and so we had a tremendous environment for the game on Saturday night. Great energy and electricity in the stadium. I know our players certainly fed off of it, and so I ask that they continue to show up with that level of passion and support for every home contest throughout the season, because it made for a great environment to play and coach in. Obviously, just touching on the game real quick, not the result we wanted. I do think our guys competed tremendously hard and played with great effort for the full 60 minutes. It's pretty well documented that we had some significant contributors who were unfortunately unavailable for the game, unable to play, and so that forced us to be creative at times in the game planning. And so, again, unfortunately did not get the result we wanted, but I do think our players continue to play with that bulldog mentality, and they competed and played tremendously hard for the entire game. Okay, so as we go into this next week, hopefully we're going to be able to get a few of those guys back. We certainly need to get freshened up as a roster, and so hopefully get a few of those guys back and have them available for the game. We're facing a very good opponent. Coach Taylor in his first season over there in Western Michigan, what they're building, you can see every week their progress and their development as a team. Very explosive on offense last week, particularly put up a lot of points. They've had a chance to face the defense one time already this season, playing Syracuse earlier in the season. And so we'll have quite the challenge in front of us. But coming off of the month of September, we know where we're at, we know where we want to be, and where we want to go. And so the month of October is an incredibly important month for us. And I touched on that after the game on Saturday night. I've talked about it with the players. October is an incredibly important month for us. It starts by going 1-0 this week. We need to go to work. Well, we need to respond properly. We need to go 1-0 this week, then we need to take advantage of the bye week, and obviously get into the second half of the season. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Start off over to the right with Steve.
Coach, obviously, you can't afford to overlook anybody, but you mentioned getting some guys back. How do you kind of navigate that in mind, a non-conference opponent, and then an open date, and then you get into really the heart of SEC play? So how do you kind of handle the injury front?
You only get 12 opportunities to play in a season, and you work year-round for those, and you think about a player, right? If he can play, and he can safely play, right, defend himself properly, he's not at risk of worse injury, and I think you gotta let that guy play, because to work year-round as a player, only for 12 opportunities, and then to hold a guy out because you go, well, man, if we can hold him out, and then you get a bye week, you really get 2 weeks potentially to even freshen up a little bit more. I think that's a little bit unfair to the player, right? Because they've worked year-round, they get so many opportunities to play. This is what you do it for. I think you want to let them play. And so, as long as they are medically cleared to play, the training staff, the doctors feel like they're healthy enough and they're not at risk of worse injury, then we're going to play everyone available.
Robbie?
I guess it might be tough to answer this when you have the injuries that you have, but it's been talked about getting the best 11 players on the field. Do you feel like y'all have been able to do that consistently, or are you still trying to find that out?
I mean, right now we're probably a little more banged up defensively, right? And so, I mean, I agree with one, right? Unfortunately, I do have to announce that. Unfortunately, Travion Williams is going to be done for the year. He did end up having a season-ending surgery, and so. When he's available, is he one of the best 11? Yeah, we want him on the field. Unfortunately, he's not available, so we have to find a new way. That would be one example. But again, I think that's a kind of deeper question than that. A lot of times, I know from a defensive perspective, the best 11 players on the field is also relevant to what personnel that the offense has on the field, right? And so, I think I touched on this post game, but when you have an opponent bringing in bigger personnel, but you're out several D linemen, so you can't match with bigger personnel, yes, it becomes more difficult then to match bodies for bodies. But simply put, I mean, we don't make excuses for injuries around here, right? It's next man up mentality, and you gotta find a way. And so, but I do think at times, we played some linebackers in some roles that maybe were traditionally defensive line alignments. Yeah, I think that was a better combination of getting the best 11 on the field than rather than putting a true freshman defensive lineman who's getting his first college action, maybe, right? I mean, in that case, yeah.
Kind of along those lines, Zach, Don Terry got in there, Ty Cooper got in there for their first extensive playing time. Now that you had a chance to review the film, how well did those guys take advantage of that opportunity?
Don Terry particularly well. I mean, he's going to see increased game reps from here on out, I would imagine. Assuming he continues to perform like that and be reliable and do his job, and do his assignment. Ty again also did a really good job. He played some snaps down in there as an interior defensive lineman, and his body weight, you would say, no, you shouldn't put him down in there, and so. I guess that's what makes Louisville football so tough, right? That's why they're in a state title every year. Tough football players come out of there, and so yeah, he'll see increased reps as well also.
Robbie?
You talked about having to get creative too on the defensive side. How did you feel like y'all handled that? I mean, a lot of times you might have had a one down lineman, and you had to kind of change things up, obviously with the injuries up front. I mean, how did you feel like y'all handled changing things defensively, schematically?
Again, I think on every play there was always at least two defensive linemen in there. Sometimes Crumity he didn't have his hand in the ground, right? He was really blitzing to a defensive line position, but I mean, honestly, did we get the results exactly what we wanted? No, not exactly. Do I think those guys on defense did the very best they could at executing the plan and some new assignments and alignments than what they maybe practiced at this point, because we had to be creative in some things we did. Yeah, I think they did a really nice job of buying into it and giving everything they had. Again, if you are a little undersized, again, because of unavailability of some of our front guys, I do not think it's in your best interest to be a little undersized and then also just line them up and play static, right? Usually you're going to want to move and stunt and do some things to try to get on edges and slow down the opponent. And so we didn't stop the run as good as obviously we hoped for, but I don't think it was a horrible effort either.
To follow up on injuries, do you have any update on DeMonte or Calvin Dinkins specifically?
Yeah, Monte is progressing just as we hoped, coming off of the South Carolina. He got a little rolled up on in South Carolina, and so besides he's probable this week, right? We got to continue on field evaluations, but he will practice. And again, like I referenced earlier, right? If from a medical standpoint, trainers, doctors feel that he is not at greater risk of injury or something that could cause it to linger throughout the rest of the season, then he'll play. And then Dink's come a little bit longer timetable to return, so we expect getting him back this year, but it will not be this week.
Brian?
Will has sandwiched one of the best games he's had at Mississippi State versus the two worst games he's had at Mississippi State from a statistical perspective. What does he need to do, and what can the coaching staff do to get him to be just a little bit more consistent?
Yeah, the game he had at South Carolina, see a lot of big plays, a lot of big plays over the top. Again, coverage is not exactly the same that we faced last week, and so to expect the exact same routes to hit the same would be unfair, because you're facing a different coverage and those routes aren't available when you have a post player in the middle of the field. But we got to continue to get the ball in our most explosive players' hands. Right? When we're running it effectively, which I think we did a pretty good job of that, right? That does allow you to set up some play action opportunities, okay? And then we gotta take care of the football, right? Unfortunately, we had 2 interceptions, 1 returned for a touchdown, the other one, I referenced this after the game, but we've been pretty good in end of half scenarios, finding a way to operate a 2-minute drill and get some points right before the half. Felt like, hey, we just gave up a touchdown and we're down 14. Here's a chance. If we can go down and kick a field goal, we get the ball coming out of half, which we ended up scoring. All of a sudden, that's potentially a 4-point game, right? If you can get a field goal and then a touchdown and a half, the one thing you can't do is you can't turn the ball over, right? And then we did just that. And so I'm very mad at myself because we could have took that to halftime. The offensive coaches all got on the headset and say, Coach, is this a scenario you want to take to half, or do you want us to, go with the drive? And I was the one who said, yeah, we've been good in this situation before. And obviously it was communicated that the one thing we cannot do is turn the ball over, and unfortunately that's what happened. And so that's my responsibility as a head coach. But we need to Will just continue to show up and work with the same mindset he has every other day, all right? And I think that's the only way you're gonna get the results you want, right? Is you gotta show up and put in the work, and he does that every week, and so hopefully he has a good game this week.
Justin?
Another injury question. Justin Robinson was, I guess, a surprise player that was out last week. Any update on him?
I would probably say similar to Monte, right? He was unavailable for the game. Again, it just matters how he looks through the week of practice, right? If the doctors and trainers feel like, yep, he's back to full go, and he's not at any increased risk, he'll be playing Saturday. But it is not a long-term thing by any means.
You mentioned you thought you ran the ball fairly effectively, but the game plan kind of dictated that you had to pass a little more. But do you feel as like you guys are a little better offensively when you are able to get Woody and Pittman going?
I think you said the game plan dictated you have to throw a little bit more, and I thought the situation of the game, right, when it became a multiple score game in the second half, that requires you to throw it a little bit more, because it's hard to just run the ball because it keeps the clock running, right, and you run out of possessions. I think every offense is, when you can run it effectively, it obviously opens up things in the pass game, it keeps you on schedule, right, it protects against negative plays. So, yes, if we can get Woody and the running backs going, and we can avoid negative plays by running the ball efficiently, usually that's 4 more yards on first down, half your yards remaining on any type of second down, and obviously conversions on third down, then yes, that is in our best interest. We did a really good job. Got in some third down situations, which is typically where you're going to get your more exotic looks, pass rushes. We had a couple outside zone plays that split them for 10 or more yards and converted first down and got the drive going. Will had a quarterback draw, right, on third down, right, which is a good way to attack some of those coverages that you face on those down and distances. So yeah, it's in our best interest to be effective and stay ahead of schedule with the run game.
Steve?
Coach, I know you used Mike right. Sometimes he's a bit of a gadget guy. What are your thoughts on maybe getting him more involved, maybe giving him a full series or anything like that?
Yeah, I would maybe challenge a little bit, calling it those just gadget plays. I think those are sometimes those run pass options where the quarterback has the ability to keep it and then throw it when he sucks up a defender. I don't think I call those gadget plays, but Mike has done a very good job when we brought him in situational football, executing the call. Sometimes he keeps it and he score a touchdown in the game. Other times he dumps it off on the RPO, like I just said. He's done a very good job with his opportunities, and we're going to continue to get him, additional opportunities. And we hopefully expect the same results. So, but he's been very effective when he's been in there. So, yeah, he deserves opportunities.
We haven't talked a whole lot about the offensive line this year. You've rotated a number of guys up there. Who's impressed you, stood out for you up front so far?
I think probably when you talk to the coaching staff, post-game grades, I think probably from a consistency standpoint to the first 5 games of the season, Cole Smith's probably been our most consistent performer and how he's played in there. obviously as a center, you're setting the points, making the majority of the calls and ID in the fronts and looks and getting into the right, combos, double teams, and so he's done a really good job. I think we're really excited about Percy and what he has shown. He did a few things in that game on Saturday where you can see the player he is going to become, and so he's going to see additional opportunities and reps. And I think the offensive line has done a good job of embracing, particularly in the run game, a variety of schemes, right, that you're asked to execute, and that defensive looks determine that you need to get into. And then kind of goes back to that previous question, right? If we do a good job of staying ahead of schedule, right, and that's both running and throwing the ball, right? Because quick game RPO stuff keep you ahead of schedule too. When we stay out of third and real longs, where you keep some of these pass rushers from getting to their exotic looks, and you don't have to deal with all those complicated rush and pass off a whole bunch of twists, we've been really effective on offense. But we're probably not built to drop back in third and long a whole bunch. No offense really is.
Back to the defensive line, you talked about Trevion being out, and noticed a couple of freshmen, I think Caleb and Gabe, that dressed out Saturday. When you get pretty much to the middle of the season and you're not getting some guys back, how tough is that decision-making process of who to keep a red shirt on and who to have to pull it off?
Yeah, again, it is really good that the NCAA did what they did and allowed for 4 games of participation and retaining the red shirt. Because every team throughout the course of the season, you're going to need to steal some snaps with guys before than you ideally hoped you had to play them. Again, it kind of went back there, I touched on it earlier, but you take some of the true freshman defensive linemen to throw them out there and get their first game action, an SEC West play. I don't know if that's a fair expectation or not for them, and to think that they're going to just hold up and to the speed and physicality. Some are, and I'm sure you're going to see some of those guys throughout the course of the rest of the season. But other times, I made the determination it was better to bring an extra Sam linebacker edge play. That's why you saw Don Terry out there, and obviously he did what he did, and you're going to see he will get a lot more opportunities to play. And so I think that's part of the game plan process every single week. Your opponent factors into that. This personnel's that they play a lot of the game in, and what schemes they run. We might see some young D linemen get their first action. And so it's the best thing for your development. I mean, it is the best thing for your development. You talk to the young freshmen, because a lot of times there are questions about redshirting versus not, and because I want to develop, I think it'll be the best way to develop is playing football. That's the best way to develop. And so some guys are getting that opportunity to develop maybe earlier than they even thought going into the season, but that's college football. And so it's next man up mentality, and the best way to develop is playing football.
Yeah.
What do you feel like needs to happen, or what do you want to see happen this week to feel confident going into this bye week and going into the back half of the season?
Well, obviously we need to show up with the right mentality, right? We need to show up excited to work, excited to prepare, because you control, that is what you control, right? You don't control anything else. I kind of hope we show up an angry football team, and I hope we got a lot of angry football players, I hope we got a lot of angry coaches, and I hope we play like an angry football team. I happen to think that leads to improved play on the field, actually, myself. And so I would hope we're a little bit angry as a football program, and I hope we play with that edge.
Steve?
I guess kind of a two-parter. I mean, are you angry?
Yeah, yes I am.
Second part of that, Jeffrey Pittman has made some really big plays, and it really doesn't matter who the competition is. So what are you seeing from him, and what's enabled him, I guess, to be such a big part of the offense?
Yeah, I think I would relate almost to the other question about freshman. Pitt's a junior college transfer. All right, so he's a couple years older, he's physically just stronger, more developed. And so the jump for him from, Mississippi junior college football to SEC play is not near the same jump in speed, size, physicality as a high school football player. And so when he's got his opportunities, he's not overwhelmed by the speed or physicality of the game. He breaks tackles. He can pick up blitzes off the edge and hold up against the rush. All right, and so physically he's not overwhelmed by it. And then so when physically you're able to compete, and then obviously he's got more time learning the plays, getting more reps at him, and it becomes more becomes more natural. Well, now you start to flourish and you really start to see his talent shine through. So yeah, he's done a really good job for us, and we need him to continue to be that guy, because it's particularly at the running back position, right? You need a stable of running backs. You got to be able to roll a bunch of bodies in there, because just the nature of the position. You're getting hit from all different angles. You wear a lot of different hats. You're a primary ball carrier. You're a lead blocker. You're a blitz pickup guy. And so you're going to get nicks, bumps, and bruises throughout the course of the season to all your guys in that position group. So you got to have a deep running back room in order to withstand that.
Coach, you talk about being an angry coach at this point. What is the development now going from a position coach to coordinator, where you can just openly express it out there, to on the sidelines, controlling or maybe picking your spots when to show it for all the world to see or the cameras to catch?
I want to make sure I clear this up. But maybe angry's, I think it's the correct word. I really do. But we're all competitors, right? I can guarantee you right now, no one is more frustrated or critical of ourselves than players and coaches, because those are the people who put in the most time, effort, and work and investment in the program. Again, so I appreciate the passion of our fan base. No one is more frustrated than us. And so how you respond to that, right, is what you control. We have to come out and we have to have a critical eye at ourselves, right? We have to then go, okay, the only way we're going to improve this is getting back on the practice field, getting in the film room, getting in the meeting room, right? That is what we control, okay? Then how the effort and intensity with which we actually go about our work. Right? Yeah, we can go on the practice field, but if we don't, if we just go through the motions, well, we're not really gonna get better, right? But if we go out on the practice field and we truly want to improve and get better, and so we are practicing with maximum focus and effort, you're going to improve, right? And typically you see results on Saturdays that way. And so, again, yeah, I'm angry. Yeah, I'm angry. Do I think angry football teams usually play the game better? I do. To be honest with you, I want an angry football team no matter what the record is. I really do. So, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
But as you watch the film on Western Michigan, what's their identity? And I think you mentioned defense in your opening statement. Just talk about a little bit more about their identity.
I actually think defensively, they look similar to us a lot of the time. You get into odd fronts, right? Kind of have we call our Sam linebacker. I'm not 100% sure what they call their position, but at times look like what we do with our Sam linebacker in interior gaps. Jump into a lot of multiple different looks and bring a lot of pressures. And so I think philosophically, their defense and us have a lot of similarities. Offensively, 11 personnel, 12 personnel spread, do a really good job of stretching sideline to sideline, and then you can tell, just watching through the film, you can tell that their offensive staff, they do a really good job of understanding how defenses are coached, right? What the stressors are. They do a really good job of finding ways to use angles to divide the defense. What I mean by that is, get down blocks or crack blocks from receivers and either bring running backs or tight ends, offensive linemen around, and so that you kind of divide the defense and create a seam. So they do a very good job of that. And then, again, they understand the opposing defensive scheme. For instance, they're playing Iowa, right? And they know the quarter safeties are in the run fit based off that tight end blocking. So they find ways to get that tight end to show block and then slip them up and hopefully get that safety being overly aggressive and triggering, and you hit a big play over the top. So you can just tell watching the film, their offensive staff understand defense very well. So they have very good coaching staff. Very good players too, because it's all about players. I've said that every week up here, right? They got good players. And when you got good players and you got good scheme, usually means you put up points and you're very effective.
Coach, just looking ahead at what your guys' schedule kind of looks like, I mean, this is the only home game you guys have until November. Just how important is it to get that momentum, knowing, the tough 2-game stretch you guys have coming out of the bye week?
This game's important because it's the one we get to play, right? It's the next one up. That's really, I think we can get a little bit too looking out into the future, and that just becomes a distraction, right? The only thing that matters is how we show up today and work. And then that same mentality is tomorrow, and ultimately, right, we're focused on this week and this week alone. Then we get the bye week, gives us an opportunity to freshen guys up a little bit, get guys back in the weight room, and kind of hopefully get stronger as we go into the second half of the season. Gets coaches out on the road recruiting, right? And then we get into game plan preparation, for Arkansas. But all of that is in the future. The only thing that matters right now is going 1-0 this week.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you very much.